Hi guys, welcome to In the Game Room number 4, and this time we'll be talking about two of the biggest falls from grace ever, in my opinion, in the history of video games, and that is Konami and Capcom. So recently Capcom has been essentially put up for sale. They've pretty much given up hope on, being able to do things on their own, and they're bankrupt and they have no money and they want someone to, purchase them. And a lot of people are speculating like, hey, is Nintendo gonna buy them? Is yada yada gonna buy them and everything? But this, for anybody who knows anything about games, pre, last 5, 6, 7 years is amazing, because Capcom used to be the company. I mean, if you look back, especially in the Nintendo era, and now we're talking 20 years ago, Capcom could do no wrong. I mean, every game they put out, even games that nowadays you would look at as like, kind of like, cash-ins, like Yo Noid, are still like really quality, good games. So, my question today for everyone would be like, what caused this? Like, how do you view Capcom nowadays? Is it just like kind of like a steady decline over the years? Is it like one single thing they did to make them drop down? I mean, these were the kings. I mean, everything they did. Disney gave them the rights to, like Aladdin and Lion King and all the Disney games, and they made the best Disney games ever. Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers and Rescue Rangers 2 and all that kind of stuff. DuckTales, all that stuff. Just every game you can think of that Capcom made 20, 15, 10 years ago was amazing. And now they're soon to, I guess, still be a company, but be owned by someone else and not be their own thing. And I always put Konami into the same page there, because I view as Konami as overall, for creating franchises that I love, as my -- favorite developer, publisher, whatever they are together right there. And recently Konami, although Konami's not near as dire trouble, we're looking at another just fall from grace in general. A lot of stuff they're putting out now is just kind of like, like it's alright, but it's nothing like Silent Hill, Metal Gear Solid kind of stuff. Like, absolutely, even like Castlevania's, like Symphony of the Night, Castlevania 3, Castlevania 4, everything they put out back then was so great. So what caused it? I mean, is this just like a, hey, we're going to be really hardcore old guys and say games have been declining over the years? Is it that they've been, spending their money disappropriately? Is it that general gaming trends go away from them? They used to make, more of like the hardcore games and stuff like that. Like Silent Hill 1 is not a game that like everyone can just pick up and get into. It's really tough to get into a game. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's still surprising that they were able to make 2 movies about it, as great as the lore and everything is. So what is it? I mean, with Capcom, a couple years ago, they really shot themselves in the foot with that disc-locked DLC on Street Fighter vs. Tekken. I mean, that was huge. It was stuff that was already on the disc, physically there, that you had to spend money on to, unlock, and it drove people bonkers. But I don't think it would drive people bonkers to the point of putting them under. Is it just that their franchises have been kind of going down over the years? Resident Evil 4, pinnacle of just awesome games, and then from then, for the most part, just going down here. Although I liked Revelations, you look at the same with Konami. You have, the first 4 or 5, 6 Silent Hill games are great, and then after that, it's just kind of, exists. They kind of like are games. Is the state of publishers and developers in something to worry about? Are we looking at, the possibility of a crash? This won't be 1983 kind of stuff, but we could see crash in terms of like a lot more companies, the non-EAs, the non-Activisions, the non-Ubisofts going under. I mean, heck, last year we saw THQ, who, although I didn't like THQ at all and thought their games were kind of lame overall, they put out a lot of games, and they put out games that sold really well. The UFC games, Darksiders, Saints Row, these games sold really well and continue to sell, so even although they're used. What are causing these companies that bring out, like, fairly quality games to go under? So, let us know what you think. Let us know, does this go back to the gaming budgets we were talking about earlier, that companies are putting way too much into it? I remember I think I mentioned this in the gaming budgets thing, but it was both THQ and then Ubisoft who picked it up. We're talking about how many millions of copies they would have to sell of South Park: Stick of Truth to break even. And of course, South Park is one of those shows they can make in literally 3 or 4 days. You know, there's a famous documentary out there on it. Is it that they're spending too much money in a negative way? Is it that everyone's getting fed up with, like, DLC? Like, Capcom was huge on the DLC. Like, everything was DLC and all this stuff. Was that just a business being greedy? Or was that a business's last-ditch effort to break even? You know, were they hemorrhaging money so badly that what they had to resort to was all this DLC stuff? Which I guess could be a possibility with that. But, I mean, nowadays Capcom is not a huge thing. Mega Man does not exist. Everyone wants it to exist, but it doesn't exist. Resident Evil is a shell of its former self, and mostly, to your average person, movies now. You know, many old franchises for Capcom haven't been around for years. So Capcom's a shell of its former self. But, that being said, this is one of the biggest companies, you know, in video game history. Just simply going under, simply ceasing to be. Why is this? There's not any really easy answer for me. It's really tough with these budgets. The way I look at it is it's really tough with these budgets that keep rising and rising for each game, for the companies to cater to anything but the most casual demographic. Now, casual doesn't always mean bad. There's some games that really should be casualized in a way that everyone can pick it up and play. Wii Sports, Madden, NBA, Call of Duty should be one of those games that, like, it's be really nice that everyone can just pick it up and play and kind of stuff. However, there should be other games out there, you know, for the more hardcore market kind of thing. Is it getting to the point where games are so expensive to make that you can't make these hardcore games anymore? You have to count on 6 million copies to sell of a game brand new, plus the DLC, plus all that stuff to even break even on a game? Is it that they're wasting money? Is it that it's too expensive? Is it that they just don't know what they're doing anymore? I mean, you can look at Atlus, who for the most part is a publisher, not a developer. Atlus brings a lot of games, localizes them to America, stuff that's created by other people, but Atlus is going really strong and has, like, the most hardcore fan base in video games right now in terms of, you know, a developer. I mean, Atlus people will, like, buy anything Atlus puts out. I mean, it just is what it is. I love Konami and Capcom, but I won't pick up, you know, Beatsmania 3 by Konami because it's made by Konami, but Atlus is doing such a good job that it has this market that just will buy everything. But at the same time, Atlus does not put a whole ton of money into this stuff. They know that it's not going to sell as much as anything EA puts out because it's not made for it, you know, that kind of a market. And they spend the money, you know, they spend the money on it, you know, justly, and then they're still around, they're still a company. So, I guess state of general developers and publishers, are we looking at some sort of, you know, some sort of a crash in terms of publishers? Are we looking at only having 3 or 4 or 5 big publishers anymore and small publishers either going by the way of just indie and DLC kind of stuff, or you know, just digital only kind of stuff, or are we just looking at it that Capcom and Konami have had their time and, you know, they've been around for 20-25 years and kind of is what it is. Everything has its end. So let us know below. Let us know what your thoughts on that, and if you can link them in any way to our other discussions in the game room, that would be awesome as well. Thanks again, guys.